On Saturday the 8th of July, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations on the Lyman, Bakhmut, Marinka and Shakhtarsk fronts. A total of over 25 combat engagements occurred between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 8th of July. Details: During the day, the Russian occupiers launched another air and missile attack on the territory of Ukraine, using S-300 anti-aircraft missiles and Iranian-made Shahed attack drones. As a result of combat work, the air defense units of Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 5 Shahed attack drones. Some of them hit industrial facilities and infrastructure facilities in Dnipropetrovsk and Kirovohrad oblasts. In addition, Russian forces carried out 34 airstrikes, deployed multiple launch rocket systems (MLRS) to conduct 42 attacks. In particular, 8 civilians were killed and 13 wounded in Russian attacks on the city of Lyman. The probability of missile and air strikes throughout Ukraine remains high. Russian forces continue to focus their main efforts on the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka fronts. A total of 25 combat engagements occurred between Russian and Ukrainian forces over the course of the day. The operational situation on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts remains much the same as before. There is no evidence that Russia is forming offensive units there. Certain units of the armed forces of Belarus are performing tasks in the areas bordering Ukraine. Russian forces maintain a military presence on the Severshchina and Slobozhenshchina fronts. During the day, they conducted an airstrike near Vovkivka in Sumy Oblast and deployed mortars and artillery to fire on over 25 settlements, in particular, Karpovichy in Chernyaev Oblast, Znab Novorodsky, Bilopilya in Sumy Oblast and Hadish, Vovchansk, Varvarivka in Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces launched an airstrike near Novoihorivka in Luhansk Oblast. They tried to advance in the vicinity of Berestov, Novoselivsky and Stelmakivka in Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian soldiers hold the defense firmly, repelling all Russian attacks. Fyholivka, Kupiansk, Kyslivka and Kamyanka in Kharkiv Oblast were attacked by artillery and mortars. On the Lyman front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful assaults during the day and tried to dislodge Ukrainian troops from their positions near Vesel in Donetsk Oblast. They carried out airstrikes near Nevsky in Luhansk Oblast and Spern in Donetsk Oblast. Over 10 settlements, including Nevsky, Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast and Verkhnekamiansk, Vesel in Donetsk Oblast were hit by artillery fire. On the Bakhmut front, Russian forces conducted airstrikes in the areas of Druzhkivka and Bilahora. Over 10 settlements, including Bodanivka, Kromov, Chasev Yar, Ivanovsky in Donetsk Oblast were affected by Russian shelling. On the Avdiivka front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the areas of Novokulinov, Stepo, Pervomaysk and Nevelsky. Conducted an airstrike in the vicinity of Avdiivka. At the same time, the occupiers shelled over 15 settlements, including Karamek, Avdiivka, Pervomaysk, and Semenivka in Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, under Russian artillery fire, Ukraine's defenders repelled all Russian attacks in the vicinity of Marinka. Russian forces conducted airstrikes near Krasnohorivka and Novomykhailivka in Donetsk Oblast. They fired on the settlements of Hyorhivka, Yelizavetivka, Krasnohorivka, Oleksandropol, Marinka and Katerinivka. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the area of Blahodadna in Donetsk Oblast. They also carried out an airstrike there. Over 10 settlements were attacked, in particular, Novomykhailivka, Vuhledar, Zolotaniva and Shakhtarsk in Donetsk Oblast were affected. On the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts, Russian forces are concentrating their main efforts on preventing Ukrainian troops from advancing further. They conducted an airstrike near Kozatsky in Kherson Oblast and shelled over 20 settlements, including Novodorivka, Lavadna, Malinivka, Huliaipol in Zaporizhia Oblast, Havrilivka, Antonivka, Zolota Balka, the city of Kherson in Kherson Oblast, and Ivanivka and Oshakiv in Mykolaiv Oblast. At the same time, Ukraine's defense forces continue to conduct an offensive operation on the Melitopol and Berdyansk fronts, are entrenched at the gained positions, and carry out counter-battery measures. Ukrainian aircraft conducted 7 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel were concentrated. Units of Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 11 field artillery units, an ammunition storage point, 3 air defense systems and 2 radio-electronic warfare stations. UK intelligence describes critical situation of Russian Federation in Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces are continuing to carry out successful offensives near the city of Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast, while the Russian military is suffering from low morale and hardly has the reserves to hold the town. Source: UK Defence Intelligence Review, as reported by European Pravda. It is noted that after a lull in June, over the past 7 days, Bakhmut has again become the site of some of the most intense fighting along the front, with Ukrainian troops making steady gains, both north and south of the city. Russian defenders are highly likely suffering from low morale, a mix of disparate units and a limited ability to find and strike Ukrainian artillery, UK Defense Intelligence notes. The review points out that Moscow apparently considers it politically unacceptable for Ukrainian forces to surrender Bakhmut, a city that has symbolic value as one of the few achievements of Russian forces in the last year of the war. However, there are highly likely few additional reserves for Russia to commit to the sector, the UK intelligence service states. The town of Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast was the scene of one of the fiercest confrontations between Ukrainian and Russian forces until the Russian side announced in May this year that it had allegedly seized the town. According to Ukrainian and Western officials, Russia lost a significant amount of manpower during the offensive on Bakhmut, at least 60,000 killed and wounded. Previously, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that Ukrainian forces had conducted offensive operations north and south of Bakhmut, and the commander of the Ukrainian army, Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, said that Ukrainian troops had regained control of previously lost positions in the Bakhmut area. General Staff: Russian forces attempt advances in Donetsk, Luhansk oblasts. Russian forces attempted offensives in 5 directions in Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported in its evening update on July 8. The military reported that Russian forces conducted airstrikes and shelled multiple settlements in the area. The directions include the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Marinka and Shakhtarsk sectors. Donetsk Oblast Pavlo Kyrylenko reported that Russian shelling on July 8 of a residential part of Lyman killed 8 civilians, and injured 13. Russian forces are reportedly focusing on Donetsk Oblast, where 25 skirmishes were reported over the past day, according to the report. In the southern sectors, Russian forces are attempting to hinder Ukraine's advance by launching airstrikes and shelling over 20 settlements in Zaporizhia and Kherson oblasts, the military said. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces are continuing offensive operations toward Melitopol and Berdyansk, targeting Russian positions with airstrikes and artillery. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on July 9 that Russia has lost 234,040 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes 600 casualties Russian forces sustained just over the past day.